The fluorescent lights of Horizon Innovation's 45th floor office buzzed quietly as dawn broke over the San Francisco skyline. Elena Rodriguez, a petite 68-year-old woman with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, moved methodically between the pristine glass offices. Her weathered hands worked efficiently, emptying trash bins and wiping surfaces clean before the building would fill with the young, ambitious tech employees. Elena took pride in her work, despite it being invisible to most. 23 years of cleaning corporate offices had taught her to move like a ghost present enough to maintain immaculate spaces, but absent enough to avoid interfering with the important business of important people. She hummed softly, a habit from her childhood in Mexico that had never left her, even after decades America. "Good morning, Mrs. Rodriguez," called a friendly voice. Elena looked up and smiled at Sarah Chun, a young product manager who always arrived early. Unlike most employees who looked through Elena as if she were made of the same glass as the walls around them, Sarah acknowledged her existence. "Buenos dias. Sarah, beautiful day coming, yes?" Elena replied, her English still carrying the melodic accent of her homeland. "Absolutely. Did you have a good weekend?" Elena nodded, about to answer when the elevator doors dinged, announcing new arrivals. Her shoulders instinctively tensed as she recognized the boisterous laughter of Blake Thompson, the marketing vice president, and his entourage of junior executives. "And then I told the client either they go with our proposal or they can find someone else to rescue their pathetic brand." Blake's voice echoed through the open space, followed by dutiful laughter from his followers. Elena quickly moved to collect her cleaning cart, hoping to disappear before. Well, if it isn't our prehistoric cleaning lady," Blake's voice dropped to a mock whisper that was intentionally loud enough for everyone to hear. "I swear she was dusting dinosaurs before she started here." More laughter, more painful than any physical blow could be. Elena kept her eyes down, her face a careful mask of professional detachment as she had trained herself to do over the years. "Hey, Blake, not cool," Sarah said firmly, but Blake merely rolled his eyes. "Relax, Chun. She barely speaks English anyway." He turned to Elena with exaggerated slowness, speaking loudly as if volume could overcome a language barrier that didn't exist. Coffee. Spill. Over. There. Go. Clean." He deliberately knocked his coffee cup toward the floor, not enough to spill completely, but enough that several drops splattered on immaculate tile. His companions snickered as they moved toward the conference room, leaving Elena staring at the brown droplets now marring her freshly mopped floor. Sarah approached, kneeling to help. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Rodriguez. Blake is a—" "It's okay, Mija," Elena said calmly, efficiently wiping the spill. "Some people feel bigger by making others feel small. But true size is measured by heart, not by how loud you can laugh at an old woman." What Blake Thompson didn't know what none of them knew except for Raj Patel in HR, who had processed her paperwork, was that the woman they mockingly called prehistoric had raised her son alone after her husband died, working 3 jobs to put him through the best schools. The same son who had founded Horizon Innovations 12 years ago and now served as its CEO. The same son who had offered his mother a comfortable retirement many times over, only to have her refuse, insisting that honest work kept her spirit young. The same son who respected his mother's wish for anonymity among the staff, understanding her desire to be valued for her work rather than her relationship to him. Blake Thompson had no idea that the old cleaner he was laughing at was Marco Rodriguez's mother. Music shifts to more rhythmic, engaging beat. Elena had never been one to seek the spotlight. Even as a young woman in her small Mexican village, she preferred working earnestly behind the scenes to standing center stage. This quality had endeared her to her late husband, Carlos, who had admired how she could organize entire community celebrations without ever taking credit. This same humble efficiency had raised her son Marco to greatness. After Carlos died of a heart attack, when Marco was just 10, Elena had become both mother and father. She cleaned houses during the day, worked as a hospital aide in the evenings, and still somehow found time to help Marco with his homework, to attend his science fairs, to cheer at his soccer games even when exhaustion had carved deep lines into her face. "Mommy, why do you work so hard?" a teenage Marco had once asked her. "The other kids' mothers don't work 3 jobs." Elena had taken his face between her calloused hands. "Mi hijo, remember this. There's honor in all honest work, whether you clean toilets or run companies. What matters is that you do it with dignity and respect for others. That is what makes a person wealthy, not money." Those words had shaped Marco's business philosophy when he founded Horizon Innovations after graduating from Stanford. Despite becoming wealthy beyond Elena's wildest dreams, Marco maintained his mother's values, creating a company culture that emphasized respect for all contributors from executives to maintenance staff. Or at least, that had been his intention. Blake Thompson represented everything Marco hoped to avoid in corporate leadership. At 35, Blake had climbed quickly through the marketing ranks, bringing in major clients with his aggressive pitching style. His results were undeniable, which was why Marco had reluctantly promoted him to VP 6 months ago, despite reservations about his character. Blake cultivated an image of success that relied heavily on belittling those he considered beneath him. His designer suits, meticulously styled hair, and artificially whitened smile served as armor against his working-class Philadelphia roots facts he had carefully erased from his company biography. "The dinosaur's still using a mop instead of a Roomba," Blake whispered loudly to his assistant as they passed Elena in the hallway later that morning. Someone should carbon date her already. His assistant laughed nervously, eyes darting around to make sure no one important had heard. But Elena had heard. She always heard. She simply chose not to respond, continuing her work with the same care she always showed. Raj Patel, the HR director who knew Elena's secret, often watched these interactions with a mixture of outrage and outrage at Blake's behavior and respect for Elena's dignity. Company policy prevented him from revealing that Elena was Marco's mother, but sometimes he desperately wanted just to see the look on Blake's face. "Mrs. Rodriguez, would you like me to speak with Mr. Thompson?" Raj had offered once after witnessing a particularly cruel joke. Elena had simply smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Patel, but no. My son taught me that true character reveals itself without our intervention. Let's allow Mr. Thompson the space to show everyone who he truly is." As morning transitioned to afternoon, the 45th floor buzzed with unusual energy. Marco had called an all-hands meeting to announce a potential partnership with Nexus Global, a client so significant that landing their business would increase company value by 30% overnight. Everyone was to prepare departmental pitches for the following week when Nexus executives would tour their facilities. Elena worked around conference rooms filled with strategy sessions, emptying overflowing trash bins of discarded coffee cups and half-eaten sandwiches. As she approached the marketing department's glass-walled room, she could hear Blake's voice rising in frustration. "These are garbage ideas. Nexus wants innovation, disruption. They want to feel like we understand their consumers better than they do themselves." Blake slammed his hand on the table. "Their CEO comes from a working-class background and has this whole people-first philosophy. We need to play to that without being obvious about it." Elena paused outside, partly to avoid interrupting and partly because she recognized something in Blake's dilemma. Nexus Global's founder had a background not unlike her own son's, rising from humble beginnings through hard work and principle. She knew intimately what such people valued. Sarah noticed Elena outside and waved her in. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please come in. We're just brainstorming." Blake's face darkened. "We're in the middle of something important, Chun. The cleaning can wait." "Actually," Sarah countered, "I was thinking Mrs. Rodriguez might want some of the leftover sandwiches before they go to waste." Elena entered cautiously, keeping the periphery of the room as she collected discarded paper plates and napkins. She worked silently, but her ears caught every detail of their discussion. Later that afternoon, as Sarah worked alone in her office, frustration evident in her furrowed brow, Elena entered with her cart. "Trouble with the big project?" Elena asked gently. Sarah sighed, pushing her laptop away. "Blake's approach is all wrong for Nexus. Their whole ethos is about authentic connections and community building, but he wants to dazzle them with flash and buzzwords." Elena nodded thoughtfully as she emptied Sarah's recycling bin. "You know, when my son was building his first business, he always said the most important thing was to listen to what people are not saying. The need behind the need." Sarah looked up, intrigued. Your son owns a business? Small but successful, Elena said with a modest smile that concealed the truth of Horizon's billion-dollar valuation. He always tells me, Mommy, anybody can sell a product. The secret is to solve a problem the customer doesn't even know how to name yet. That's actually brilliant, Sarah said, grabbing a notepad. Do you mind if I ask you a few more questions about your son's approach? For the next 20 minutes, Elena shared insights gleaned from years of listening to Marco's business philosophy ideas he had often refined while talking with his mother over their Sunday dinners. Sarah took rapid notes, her excitement growing with each new perspective. Mrs. Rodriguez, this is exactly what our pitch needs, Sarah exclaimed. Instead of telling Nexus what we think they want, we should build something that demonstrates we understand their core values of community and accessibility. Elena smiled warmly. Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places, yes? Absolutely, Sarah agreed, already typing furiously. Thank you so much. Elena nodded and continued her rounds, her heart warmed by the interaction. Perhaps not everyone at Horizon saw her as invisible after all. Music builds with anticipation. The next morning, Sarah requested an emergency meeting with the marketing team. Nervous or determined, she presented the concept she had developed based on her conversation with Elena, a comprehensive approach that highlighted Horizon's commitment to community values and accessible technology, values that aligned perfectly with Nexus Global's mission. Blake initially scoffed, arms crossed offensively across his chest. But as Sarah outlined the campaign specifics, even he couldn't deny its brilliance. It was authentic, innovative, and perfectly aligned with what Nexus was likely seeking. This is not terrible, Blake admitted grudgingly. Where did these insights come from? Sarah hesitated. Mentioning Elena would only invite ridicule from Blake. I did some deeper research into Nexus's corporate history, she said instead. Well, good work, Chin, Blake said, already mentally calculating how to present these ideas as his own. Let's refine these for my presentation to Marco tomorrow. Later that day, Marco called Blake into his office after reviewing the preliminary marketing materials. This approach is exactly what I've been wanting to see from your department, Blake. It actually reminds me of something my mother always says about business, that it should create community, not just commerce. Blake beamed, accepting credit with practiced humility. Thank you, sir. I've always believed that understanding the human element is what separates great marketing from merely good marketing. Marco nodded thoughtfully. I'd like you to present this concept at tomorrow's all-hands meeting. If it's received well, you'll lead the pitch to Nexus next week. As Blake left Marco's office, his stride confident and expression smug, he passed Elena in the hallway without a glance. She was just part of the building's infrastructure to him, as invisible as the electrical wiring hidden in the walls. He had no idea that the prehistoric cleaning lady he mocked daily had indirectly provided the insights that might secure his biggest career win to date. Sarah, however, knew better. That evening as offices emptied for the day, she sought out Elena. Mrs. Rodriguez, I presented some of your ideas today. Sarah confessed. They were brilliant. Blake's taking them to the CEO tomorrow. Elena smiled. Ideas belong to whoever can make them reality. Mija, I'm happy they might help the company. But Blake's taking credit, Sarah protested. That's not right. Each person must walk their own path, Elena replied with the serene wisdom that comes from decades of life experience. Truth has a way of revealing itself at the right time. Sarah wasn't convinced, but respected Elena too much to argue. Well, I know who really deserves the credit, even if no one else does. Little did either woman know that the truth would reveal itself sooner than expected. Music crescendos, signaling turning point. The all-hands meeting the following day filled Horizon's largest conference room with employees from every department. Marco Rodriguez stood at the front, his commanding presence drawing immediate silence when he raised his hand. At 42, Marco carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had built something meaningful from nothing. His simple but impeccably tailored suit reflected his philosophy: quality over flash, substance over style. Before we begin our department presentations, Marco announced, I want to talk about something fundamental to Horizon's identity: When I founded this company 12 years ago, I built it on principles I learned from my greatest mentor, a person who taught me that true leadership is service, that every role in an organization deserves respect, and that how we treat others reflects our character more than any achievement. Blake sat in the front row, nodding earnestly even as he checked his watch. The Nexus pitch was what mattered today, not another of Marco's philosophical tangents. Those values, Marco continued, seem to have been forgotten by some among us. I've become aware of incidents where team members have been treated disrespectfully based on their role in our organization. A ripple of uncomfortable awareness moved through the room. Many had witnessed Blake's behavior toward support staff, but had said nothing, fearing his influence. Marco's expression grew serious. At Horizon, we don't measure a person's worth by their title or salary. We recognize that every role contributes to our success, from the newest intern to the most senior executive. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. And yes, that includes our maintenance and cleaning staff. Blake shifted uncomfortably in his seat as several glances turned his way. Now, Marco continued, I'd like to invite someone special to join me. He looked toward the back of the room. Would you please come forward, Mommy? A collective gasp rippled through the audience as Elena Rodriguez made her way toward the front, her cleaning uniform pressed and neat, her posture dignified. Blake's face drained a color, his eyes widening in horrified recognition. Many of you know Elena Rodriguez as the woman who keeps our offices clean, Marco said, taking his mother's hand as she reached him. What you don't know is that she is also my mother and the heart behind Horizon's founding principles. The silence in the room was absolute. Shock registered on dozens of faces, none more stunned than Blake Thompson's. My mother has worked as part of our cleaning staff for 5 years, not because she needs to have offered her retirement many times, but because she believes in the dignity of work and wanted to see firsthand that the company I built truly lived by the values she taught me. Elena smiled gently at her son, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Some of you, Marco continued, his gaze landing meaningfully on Blake, have shown her the respect every human being deserves, regardless of their role. Others have used her as a punchline, assuming her job defined her worth and intelligence. Blake seemed to shrink visibly in his seat, the memory of every cruel joke and dismissive comment crashing over him like a tidal wave. What those people fail to recognize is that my mother holds a master's degree in organizational psychology that she earned at night while raising me alone. Before emigrating from Mexico, she managed a department of 50 people. And every Sunday for the past 12 years, she has been my most trusted business advisor. Sarah, sitting halfway back, couldn't suppress a smile. No wonder Elena's insights had been so profound. Marco gestured to the presentation materials prepared for Nexus Global. In fact, the brilliant community-centered approach in our Nexus pitch, the one some of you have been praising all morning, originated from principles my mother has been advocating since I founded this company. All eyes turned to Blake, who looked as though he might be ill. I believe in second chances, Marco continued, and in learning from our mistakes. So today, I'm announcing a new company-wide initiative called Dignity for All. It will reshape how we structure recognition, compensation, and advancement opportunities for every person who contributes to Horizon's success, regardless of their role. Elena stepped forward, her voice clear and confident as she addressed the room for the first time. I have watched many of you work these past 5 years. I have seen your dedication, your frustrations, your small kindnesses, and yes, sometimes your cruelties. A workplace is like a family. It shows who we truly are when we think no one important is watching. Her eyes found Blake's, but there was no triumph or accusation in her gaze, only compassion. But someone is always watching, even if only our own conscience. And it is never too late to become the person you wish others to see. The room erupted in applause, many employees rising to their feet. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes, while Raj nodded in profound satisfaction. Marco embraced his mother, whispering something in her ear that made her smile. Blake remained seated, his face a study in shame and revelation. Music shifts to reflective, thoughtful tone. The weeks following what came to be known as the Elena Revelation brought dramatic changes to Horizon Innovations. Marco appointed his mother as official cultural advisor, a role that formalized what she had unofficially been doing for years. The Dignity for All initiative began reshaping company policies, from ensuring living wages for all staff to creating advancement pathways that recognize contributions beyond traditional metrics. The Nexus Global Partnership moved forward successfully, their executives deeply impressed by Horizon's authentic commitment to the values they shared. Sarah Chun received a well-deserved promotion to lead the new Community Impact Division, a role that leveraged her natural empathy and the insights she'd gained from her friendship with Elena. And Blake Thompson? Many expected him to resign in embarrassment or be quietly forced out. Instead, something unexpected happened. The morning after the all-hands meeting, Blake arrived at work earlier than usual. Elena found him waiting beside her cleaning cart, his normally perfect appearance slightly disheveled, suggesting a sleepless night. "Mrs. Rodriguez," he began awkwardly, I don't expect forgiveness. What I did was inexcusable." Elena regarded him silently, allowing him the space to continue. "I've spent all night thinking about why I treated you and others the way I did." His voice cracked slightly. "The truth is, I grew up poor. My father was a janitor. I was ashamed of him, ashamed of where I came from. I thought if I could separate myself completely from that world, become someone important enough, successful enough, I would finally feel worthy." Elena's expression softened. "And did it work, this becoming important?" Blake shook his head, eyes downcast. "No, I just became someone my father would have been ashamed of." "It is never too late to become the person you wish others to see." Elena repeated her words from the day before, gently touching his arm. "Or the person your father would be proud of." That conversation marked the beginning of Blake's transformation. He requested to work closely with the Dignity for All initiative, bringing his marketing expertise to help communicate its importance both within the company and to the public. His first project was creating a recognition program for support staff, ensuring their contributions were regularly acknowledged. The most dramatic change, however, was in how he treated people. The performative arrogance that had been his shield fell away, replaced by genuine interest in his colleague perspectives regardless of their position. He still drove for excellence, but his approach now inspired rather than intimidated. 6 months after the Elena revelation, Horizon hosted a company anniversary celebration. The event honored not just business milestones, but the contributions of team members from all levels. Elena, now serving officially as cultural advisor, but still occasionally helping the cleaning staff to keep her fingers in real work, as she put it, stood beside her son as he addressed the gathered employees. "A company is not its product or profits," Marco said, his voice carrying across the hushed room. "It's the people who build it daily through countless acts both large and small. My mother taught me that wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by how you treat others along your journey." Elena beamed with quiet pride as she watched a diverse group of people before her executives chatting easily with maintenance staff, new interns being mentored by senior engineers, Sarah leading a diverse team that included members from every department. Blake approached them after the speeches, accompanied by an older gentleman in a crisply pressed suit who seemed vaguely familiar to Elena. "Mrs. Rodriguez Marco," Blake said, his former arrogance replaced by genuine warmth, "I'd like you to meet my father, James Thompson." The older man extended his hand with a worker's firm grip. "I've heard so much about you both. My son tells me you've taught him lessons I tried for years. Sometimes we must learn the same truth many times before it stays with us," Elena replied kindly, recognizing in James's weathered hands a lifetime of work not unlike her own. As the celebration continued around them, Elena found a quiet moment to stand by the window overlooking the city lights. Sarah joined her, offering a glass of champagne. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Rodriguez?" Elena smiled. "I was thinking about invisibility. For many years, I thought being unseen was my fate. Now I understand it was my gift to see others clearly without the distraction of being seen myself." "Well, you're certainly seen now," Sarah laughed. "Blake actually asked me for your advice on the Lakeview project yesterday." "Yes," Elena nodded thoughtfully. "But the true change is not that they now see me because I am the CEO's mother. The change is that they have learned to see everyone, to recognize that wisdom and worth exist in every role." She turned to Sarah with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Though I admit, seeing Blake's face that day was a moment I will treasure in my old age. They laughed together, two women whose unlikely friendship had helped transform an entire company culture. Across the room, Marco watched his mother with profound gratitude. She had given him life twice, once when she brought him into the world, and again when she showed him how to live in it with integrity. The company he had built was successful by any measure, but its true value lay in becoming a place where dignity was accorded to all, where no one remained invisible. Music swells with uplifting finale. Years later, business schools would study the Horizon model of corporate culture. Industry publications would analyze how prioritizing respect across all levels had led to unprecedented employee retention and productivity. What these case studies often missed, however, was a simple truth at the heart of Horizon's transformation, that how we treat people when we think no one important is watching reveals who we truly are. Blake Thompson eventually became Horizon's chief culture officer, traveling to companies worldwide to share the lessons he had learned through his own humbling experience. He always began his presentations with the same story, how he had mocked an elderly cleaning woman, without realizing she was not only the CEO's mother, but a woman of remarkable wisdom and dignity. "I thought success meant looking down on others," he would tell rapt audiences. Elena Rodriguez taught me that true success is measured by how you lift others up. Elena herself gradually stepped back from her formal role at Horizon, though she remained a beloved figure who still occasionally roamed the halls, chatting with employees at all levels. On her 75th birthday, the company surprised her by naming their new community education center after her. At the dedication ceremony, Elena stood before a microphone, her voice still strong despite her advancing years. "When I came to this country, I brought nothing but my son and my values. I could never have imagined that both would flourish beyond my wildest dreams. Remember always, there is no such thing as just a janitor, or just an assistant, or just anything. Every role carries dignity when performed with pride, and every person deserves respect simply for being human." The Elena Rodriguez Community Center went on to provide educational opportunities for service workers throughout the city, helping thousands advance their careers while being treated with the dignity Elena had always embodied. And so a story that began with mockery and invisibility transformed into one of recognition and respect, all because an elderly cleaning woman maintained her dignity in the face of cruelty, and a son honored the values his mother had taught him. Music fades to gentle conclusion. The next time you encounter someone whose role might seem unimportant or invisible, remember Elena Rodriguez. Remember that everyone has a story you know nothing about. Remember that true character is revealed in how we treat those we think cannot benefit us. For in the end, it's not our titles that define our worth, but the respect and kindness we show to every person we meet along life's journey.